Welcome. My guest is Jack Ucciferri. He is a portfolio manager of Harrington Investments in Santa Barbara, California, writing in Huffington Post about Occupy retirement planning. Specifically, he says that yours and my retirement savings aren't safe, and the method by which we do invest in retirement is actually hurting us all. Jack, welcome. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is a great article here, and you bring up some very interesting concepts here. Talk about what you mean by saying that our retirement savings are not safe and we're actually hurting ourselves by the way that we invest.
Well, what I was trying to do with that article was get at a concern that a lot of us have had for quite a while now, which is that in the globalized economy, our assets are going all around the world, investing in all sorts of dubious enterprises and questionable activities. And meanwhile, the local economies where we all live and shop are being starved of capital. So I was trying to communicate that in a way that would be, accessible to the guy on the street.
So somebody who invests in a big retirement fund, a lot of times they're investing in a big investment bank, and what you're saying is that these investment banks really don't have our best interest in mind.
Right. What I'm saying is that Wall Street serves an important role in our society, but increasingly is taking too big a cut and not caring about the people who are, the citizens of the United States and the people who run our economy. What I'm doing is raising a question as someone who's concerned about, my constituents and my community, and mentioning that it's very difficult for those of us who want to put money into the places that we know and the local entrepreneurs that we interact with to do so. It's just the regulatory environment, the political environment is such that there really aren't the investment vehicles in place currently to invest in America.
What would you like to see? See if you can be a little bit more specific of a model that you would like to see available to people. Well,
there are a couple things kind of on the horizon right now. I really like the idea of this crowdfunding. There are a couple enterprises pursuing crowdfunding, so you and I can make smaller investments in smaller enterprises or entrepreneurs that we're familiar with. The problem with that currently is that as soon as we're allowed to turn a profit on that, it's considered a security by the SEC, and it's highly regulated. So I like the idea of crowdfunding. There's a long way to go on that. I also really like this community development financial institution model, which allows local financial institutions to plug capital where it's needed, and those models are very successful based upon relationships. They're working with people they know, people they trust. Their default rate is impressively low.
And it's hard for the average person to do enough work probably to investigate and find companies that that have their best interest in mind. Well, let's talk about your typical global company. Many people believe that in order for the economy to work efficiently, big companies need to make a lot of money, and you say that because they actually do that, it actually hurts us in things like jobs and in unemployment, because of all the outsourcing and consolidation that these companies, because they're making so much money, it allows them to do that.
Well, really what we have to look for, and what I always do in my professional life, is I try to figure out the incentive structure for any institution or individual. Global corporations are incented to make as much profit as possible on the next quarterly statement. So you really consider what their interests are. You consider the interests of the executives, which are to secure their job, of course, in the middle term, but in the financial institutions in particular, it's the year-end bonus. So the annual performance, not the long-term performance, which is totally disaligned with the shareholders and the communities where they operate. So I really think that as we get around to looking at where this capital is going, we need to focus again on who's investing it and why are they investing it, and on what time horizon are they investing.
In closing here, I mean, I like all these ideas here. Do you think that there is any hope for the middle class? I mean, looking at the current political climate, current economic climate, I mean, what do you see happening in the near future?
You know, I have to say I'm really excited. I see more space for intelligent conversation and dialogue in our country than I've seen in quite a while. I see that the middle class is starting to recognize that their interests are not necessarily being served by our political and big business leaders. But on the other hand, we have a whole cadre of entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs stepping up, filling the voids, introducing new models, exciting models, and I see a convergence of capital, models, entrepreneur, and hopefully the regulatory environment, which will allow us to really restore the middle class in our country over the next few years.
My guest is Jack Ucciferri. He is a portfolio manager with Harrington Investments. Jack, I like what you write. You can find him in the Huffington Post, among other places. Jack, thanks for your time.
Thanks so much.